So it has been a lot of fuss about the visits to North Korea. And it's kind of funny and annoying at the same time, because one gets fed up of the same story about the North Koreans. Same points of view. Oh, it's a dictatorship. And all of this, it's the same. I repeat a lot of the word, the same playbook, because it's a playbook. It's the same propaganda playbook that is being used against Russia, against Vladimir Putin, against any other country that Western highest interests want to destroy in order to profit from them. And North Korea is an old one, right? Because every time, for example, I am a communist, and one of the common arguments, go live in North Korea. I do ask if some of these people use their brain at all, right? I'm not upholding the North Korean political system. I'm not upholding any system here in this talk. I'm just mentioning that while the United States, the democracy that everyone loves, free democracy, has disrupted dozens of countries, leading to direct and indirect misery, death, which perpetuates to nowadays a country that bombed and invaded countries because it wanted, demonized them, killing millions of people, is still doing it, and it's still always interfering in internal affairs of other countries. And you come to me with North Korea? Go F yourself. Really, go F yourself. But don't go, come back to the channel, then we can chat again. But go F yourself, because what did the North Koreans do to you? There is this mindset also. We created this culture that somehow when some other country has a much more different system than ours, we immediately see them as under us. We see them as inferior to us, and we feel entitled that we could justify easily a war and overthrowing of the government because we would be doing the right thing, like we have done many times in many other countries. And again, I ask you that other question I've made the other day. Tell me one of these countries in which democracy was delivered that is better. No. Tell me. There are known countries, many of them, corruption, slavery, blatant slavery, all kinds of problems, you name it. Profiting from chaos. And you come to me about North Korea. North Korea, by the way, it's been the most spoken to. It feels like North Korea, the visit of the president of the Russian Federation to North Korea, it seems like it's really itching, it's really bothering the West, which is kind of funny. Well, I don't need to tell you details, or maybe I'm just gonna throw in some because it's widely available on your favorite news outlet. But Vladimir Putin went to North Korea and they actually signed a pretty solid and black on white defense pact. In other words, an alliance. And a lot of people look down to North Korea because they think it's undeveloped country, this and that, unable to do anything. Well, I do know that North Korea hasn't invaded anyone apart from South Korea in the Korean War. That's a different context. Those were the geopolitics at the time. It still drags on till today, but those were the geopolitics at the time. But everyone is forgetting about the visit that Putin did to Vietnam. I'll talk about it as well. And the visit to North Korea, people dismissed that as an inferior country. But the matter of fact is, the policy of North Korea has prevented the US from penetrating there, destroying it from the inside, and making a shithole out of that country. Their military policy also successfully prevented that. Bear this in mind. That tiny country that you use for all your favorite demonizing sessions was pretty successful in keeping the United States at bay. Of course, you might argue, you can argue, of course, it is a very closed society, very closed regime, very tight rules. It is. But when you're playing against the US, either you are very stupid or very naive that you can have a completely open society where people just can go, where you have all the US spooks going about and organizing color revolutions. Come on. If you haven't understood how does that work, after dozens of coups, dozens of interferences, of lives destroyed, countries completely destroyed, unable to get back on their feet, because they have the unfortunate luck. They are unfortunate to live in the so-called backyard of the United States, which is South America, for example. But there are others. Iran, which you that favor the defense of democracy that the US beholds, demonize a lot Iran. But Iran, it's only a theocracy because of the United States. Shit. It's too many. I mean, I could go on and on. So, but the alliance between Russia and North Korea, it's actually very valuable, because North Korea has an industrial output which is really unknown to the most of us, but it does work. They produce a lot of weapons. I mean, if they wouldn't have an industrial output and knowledge, by the way, and educational system in place, why do you think they can make like ballistic missiles and they have nuclear weapons? And why do you think they... I know you're also gonna argue that a lot of the arsenal of the North Koreans is obsolete, and I can give you that. I mean, they have a lot of... but they do... There is one thing. They do have numbers. They do have a lot of weapons. They do have a huge stockpile. More than that, they have the capacity to produce and to keep producing them. Much more than many countries in the West. And they are in short because they are closed off, they are sanctioned. Their main, almost unique partner for trading is China. And they did struggle with famine in the past. And one of the things that Russia assured North Korea is that food safety. Food is something Russia has plenty of. Good quality, by the way. Go there, you should eat food in Russia. See how good it is compared with the shit you are eating in the US, for example. Scrap. And so they assure them food security. I mean, and pretty much a defense pact, so in which Russia promises to defend DPRK, and DPRK does the same. Also, Russia has a shortage of labor. DPRK has labor, and the same way that the alliance, the alliance with the DPRK and the improving relations with China are developing fast-paced, and everyone is criticizing them. Look at them, it's two dictatorships together, and it's like you should, look, you should overcome that. It's not good for you. It's not a hairdressing saloon, right? It's geopolitics, and the threat comes from the West, not otherwise. If you haven't realized this as well, I suggest you check your sources again and maybe dump them, change for new ones, because it's history. And so that's the only reason that these countries are getting together tightly as never before. Because remember, Soviet Union, China, during a lot of time, they didn't have any. Sai daí, javali! It's a wild boar on the road. Sorry. A baby one. They're very dangerous here at night. I almost run him over. And so, as I was saying, that these countries came tied together never, reminding you that the relation between China, for example, and the Soviet Union was not the best many times. It's because of the West. The West has been driving this. The US external policy has been driving this. I mean, Russia realized it had to stand up for itself again, because otherwise the US would just burn rampant. They had to be stopped in Syria, for example. And of course the Syrian president was in the good old-fashioned way demonized. Dictator Bashar al-Assad barrel bombs its people. I mean, utter absurd, childish arguments for the layman. They tried to pin this radical Arab on Bashar al-Assad. I mean, the guy is it's a secular state, and so this is these relations. What do I think about this? For example, what is my opinion on North Korea? North Korea, I mind my own business. So should any other country about this. Look, if you go or see plenty of footage of North Korea, I think most of those people, they are pretty happy with what they have. Of course you're gonna argue because it's closed, they don't know any better. Don't underestimate them that much. They produce a lot of competent workers and engineers. They have a lot of knowledge, more than in many countries in the West, which are being dumbed down. And then one thing we don't like in the West is arrogance. Like, we always think we are superior to all of this. And so all these alliances fit perfectly, because Russia, it's a sparsely populated country, but it has virtually infinite resources. And it has a lot of know-how. Also, North Korea has know-how. so they can be very beneficial. With China, the same. China is the biggest industrial hub of the world. Perfect symbiosis with Russia. So it has nothing to do with look, to dictatorships. Russia is not a dictatorship, by the way. It's no more than the US. I mean, before you talk about the Navalny's of this world, go and check the Assange's of this world and the Edward Snowden's of this world and the prisons in Guantanamo of this world. Before you go using those arguments, before you go criticizing your neighbor, solve the problems you have at home. Demand from your leaders, if you truly uphold freedom and liberty, demand that from your leaders first, before you go demanding from others or pinning up, sorry, I forgot the word. Happens. It's late hour after work, but it doesn't matter. Before you go brand others with dictator or this and that. So I think the alliances of North Korea, Vietnam, by the way, Vietnam. Why would Vietnam be friends with the Americans? Why? Vietnam stood up to them and won. And Vietnam was a very similar conflict to the Korean one. It was geopolitics at the time. Americans didn't want to lose the West, because the French were also involved there before the Americans. Didn't want to lose their foot over there, so they thought they could make the same play as they did in Korea, except it went wrong for them. Ho Chi Minh was a very intelligent person. And so these alliances, and some of them were really these relations. Also, look at the relations with Cuba, they're going to improve. And Russia is developing a lot of different alliances. And of course, you expect to see the West and the Western outlets, the Western propaganda, to demonize all of the countries that get along with Russia. That's expected. And when you think that you believe this propaganda, so you think others are inferior, you have the perfect mindset to walk to the slaughter, to walk us to doom. This is what I think. Okay, I hope I see you on the next one.